Good morning, everybody. It's Tuesday, February 14th, 2023, Valentine's Day. So happy Valentine's Day to you guys. What we're gonna do, or what I'm about to do this morning is we've got a homeowners association meeting that should be coming up anytime soon. They're supposed to have notified us by now, but surprise, surprise, they haven't. The neighborhood is responsible for maintaining this storm ditch because all the rainwater from up here goes this way and leads to that storm ditch right there, which you've seen me work on this part of the storm ditch. This is where I put in my first culvert. And then this plat map is not very accurate. I think what they did is they drew this in after the fact because I believe I've spoke about this before. The CMP is corrugated metal pipe. That culvert is right here, which I did a video on it the other day. It had the bags of concrete and it's right on the property line. And then what I believe is that this storm ditch actually goes right on the border between our property and the property next to us to the east. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna walk this storm ditch. I've already seen most of this, but what I'm gonna do is walk this to document it because we have a homeowners association meeting coming up, like I said, and they are responsible for maintaining this storm ditch. This part right here that says CMPs, there's supposed to be 2 of them, so corrugated metal pipe. I believe it is right on the property line as well. And then the other day, walking around to that sinkhole that was back over here, we accidentally stumbled across this corrugated pipe, which I believe is probably more in the neighborhood of right here. So what I've got to do is really kind of pinpoint where this storm ditch is and figure out where it goes into Lloyd Creek. So I will be going on the neighbor's property. I really don't care personally, and I don't think they do either. The guy's name's Jim Krabacks. It kind of looks over the property. It's owned by a corporation. It was an investment property, so I don't know. Either way, what I'm gonna do is try to figure this out because what they need to do is open this up, because if it doesn't get fixed, all that water is gonna start backing up right in here. Now that doesn't really affect me because we got the pond or the lake, but over in here is where it's gonna get real wet. So like I said, this storm ditch, take a quick little walk down it, try to figure out where it actually goes, and then document it for our HOA meeting about something that needs to be addressed by the neighborhood. Starting at the northern part of the property, this is the main entrance. You can see the barn way back there in the background. This is kind of hard to tell. I think I've talked about this before, but it does go uphill. There's obviously rainwater that comes down here, but it's not as significant as the amount of water that comes from that direction, which really doesn't make much sense. You would think there's more area back there, and you'd think you'd have more water. This, to me, looks like at one time there was one culvert here, and then it probably wasn't enough to handle the amount of water, so they put a second culvert in. Little telltale sign there because they, had to cut the asphalt and put another one in there. This stuff is really starting to erode to the point where if somebody drives off into this, it's going to do some damage. People do not stop, including our wonderful HOA president, at this stop sign. It's not a busy neighborhood, but either way, it's the principle of it, in my opinion. So anyways, people go through here pretty quick, and that is kind of a traffic hazard in my opinion, but I don't think it's really my problem. But you can see the amount of erosion from the volume of water that comes down through here. Now the other thing that I don't know is that is the actual Cavallo farm. It's a equestrian community. They do English riding and jumping and things like that. Kind of neat to go watch. But I think they have some kind of a pond or something up that way because it's obviously full because it's been pouring a lot of water down this way. So again, goes under the road, and this is where it comes on to our property. Now we knew this sort of when we bought it. We had a good idea the water was here because the culverts were here. But before I started filming anything, I took pictures of it. But this, where you see the pine needles, was completely overgrown with trees and brush. It was hanging out over the road. And one of the first things I did is I cleared all this out by hand. The president of the HOA saw me doing this. And I said, hey, you know, as part of the neighborhood and the right-of-way, shouldn't the neighborhood be responsible for cleaning this up? And he said, no, it's your land, you need to clean it up. I thought it was kind of rude, but well, if you knew the guy, you'd understand. So looking at the HOA covenants, it says that the HOA is responsible for maintaining all the stormwater runoff in the neighborhood. Now, I get it that they're not responsible to fix the damage from the people we bought it from, but you can see there's all kinds of trees, there's debris in here, and this goes right down there, and we'll kind of cut ahead to see that. Now, looking at this, we were just right up here, and again, that storm ditch comes right down through here. When we bought the land, started exploring this, you guys have heard me talk about the horse trails. This was not cleared this nice. There are a lot of little tiny trees and little, I don't know, scrub brush or whatever you want to call it in here. We had to get city water back to the barn down there. So this is where we had the water meter put in. So our water line goes right through here. Coming down this way, this is where that storm ditch makes the first sharp turn. And because this was destroyed by the people we bought it from, the water started to back up that way towards the road. But now that I've opened it up, it kind of goes where it should. This whole area still needs a bunch of work. Again, their trucks just drove over this. They probably had no idea it was a storm ditch, or at least how significant it was, or they just didn't care. It looks like a bomb went off here because I've just been dropping buckets of dirt up here. Again, I've got to get this somewhat presentable. It's kind of an eyesore, but I don't know. Again, it's a marathon, not a sprint. You can see where the company we bought this off of, or whoever we bought it off of back in May, they had driven their trucks all over here and all up and down here and really destroyed the storm ditch. So I get it that this is, you know, we bought a problem. So I've cleared and cleaned up most of this. Had to add a culvert. That way we can drive on the property. And it continues towards the east. This is where things get interesting. So we're over there, comes down this way across the property. And this is where the property line is at. So you guys remember me showing you on that map that according to the plat, this was farther onto our property, but this is the property line, or pretty darn close to it. There's flags here from where they had it surveyed and marked. Emily's confirmed it with her GPS, but this was a storm ditch, or the part of the storm ditch for the neighborhood. There is a culvert pipe, what remains of it right there. But because it has not been maintained, it is all washed out and no longer functioning properly. I was talking about those horse trails. If you guys look through the trees, you can see how it's cleared right through there, and you can see that raised area where I'm guessing this was a horse trail. But this storm ditch, this part has been just thoroughly destroyed by the company that we bought it from. There's a good view of what's left of that culvert. Coming along through here, this is really, in my opinion, the worst part of it. That culvert and the washed out area is right up there. The concrete bags. There's just all kinds of debris in here. But you can see where the trucks and the tire tracks just really came back in here to grab every tree they could. And they really left a mess. There were parts of the property that looked like this. And I've just slowly box bladed it, moved buckets of dirt, and doesn't look too bad now. You should have seen it before. And if you're sitting there going, wow, I can't believe that, then, well, you should have seen it before, because it was really a mess. This is where it really gets bad, because this is where the wetlands start. The storm ditch at this point kind of disappears, or is not as pronounced, but it does go back that way. This area is where it kind of gets lost, so to speak. The ditch comes down this way, turns in here, and then nobody's been back here as far as trucks that I can tell. But it does get flat. So all that stormwater comes down in here and has created this little wetland area. Now I'm just on the neighbor's side of the property. You can see the flag there marking property line, along with another one there. And then it just kind of meanders back in here and just kind of thins out. Not really too worried about it. All that water can sit down here because this whole area is full of ferns and all kinds of wildlife, because it is a wetland area. We also, the company we bought this from, obviously when they built the pond, there's a raised area there, but I'm not too sure that they did that. Back over near the service entrance, there's another, what looks like a horse trail that came all along there. So my guess is that they just used what was already here and used that berm to start building their pond. Again, I wish I could go back in time and see what this looked like before, but not an option. Again, here's where things get interesting. It's where we were just at. And it looks like this eventually gets deeper here, obviously, because there's standing water. And then it comes back over here. Sorry about the sun. It comes right back here to kind of a stagnant area. There's our pond in the background, and that other horse trail you've seen me talk about is right here. Used to go across there, and I think this is where the two corrugated metal pipes or culverts were at, where the water continued that way, but they've washed out. So we're back here to see if we can locate those, see where they ended up. Now again, you can see the barn in the background, so I'm on the neighbor's property. The storm ditch, what I believe, used to come this way, came through here. This is where those corrugated metal pipes should have been, and then it continues that way. You guys, like I said, up there where the concrete bags were, you can see that raised horse trail. Again, if you look through here, it's been cleared, and it lines up with that side over there. So I believe they built all this up and had the culverts going here. You can barely see a little red there. That's where the barn is. Found the storm ditch, continues down through here. And makes its way back south, still obviously heading towards Lloyd Creek. And where that culvert was back over there. Gets real thick with all kinds of vegetation, comes here. And this is the culvert we found the other day trying to locate where the storm ditch was. You can tell that there was sort of a road back here. I mean, they had to get the culvert back here somehow. But you can see here on this side, there's tire tracks leading up to our property. And basically what that does, that goes right out where the deer feeder's at, or that's where it comes out. So, I mean, it's probably just a road to do construction back here and build this storm ditch, but obviously it has not been maintained. Again, following the storm ditch, comes down here and it gets real flat, and the water spreads out. We'll see if this kind of tapers to a point again. But right now, it's just kind of, I said, fanning out, creating the wetland environment. And the journey's coming to an end. After getting through all that real thick stuff down there, this is where it fans out. It never really regroups into an actual creek again, or storm ditch. But you can see that this is where the water continues down. And the branch of Lloyd Creek is right there. So our property line is probably 200 yards that way, and that's also where the beaver dam is. But this is the branch of Lloyd Creek where the storm ditch runs into it. Mystery solved. Good little hike out here at Deer Run Farm.